The Forbidden Tree following has finally hit 50 subscribers. I want to first take a moment to thank each and every one of you for supporting this channel. Whether you are a new subscriber, someone who's been around since the beginning, someone who subscribed and stuck around during my 6-month hiatus, I thank you to the bottom of my heart. So, without further ado, let's celebrate this milestone by doing a compilation of the top 10 ritual pastas I've narrated so far. Enjoy. Having difficulty staying awake there? Trying to study for some big exam, finish some last-minute assignment that you put off all weekend, and it's now 3 in the morning and you're absolutely exhausted? Or perhaps you were in a similar state recently and are looking for help on what to do. Well, friend, I have just a prescription to ease your weary mind. All you have to do is win a game. Setting up the game is relatively simple. All you need is an hourglass, a candle, and a marker. Let me make one thing specifically clear. You need an hourglass, not one of those rinky-dinky 30-second pieces of shit you get out of a cereal box or board game. Before playing the game, test your hourglass to make sure that it takes an hour or slightly longer to drain out all of the sand from one section to the other. Having it take slightly longer will help, but too long or too short and you'll run into complications during the game. You must also be completely alone in the room while playing. When you are ready to play, choose any room that can be sealed, simply meaning that all doorways and windows can be closed. Any other form of timekeeping device or alarm must be taken out of the room prior, or the game will not begin. The hourglass will be your only time tracking tool, hence why having an accurate hourglass is crucial. Anything with an electronic display should also be removed. This includes TVs, cell phones, computer monitors, anything. Leaving them in the room during the game will put you at a massive disadvantage. You may begin the game at 8 p.m. Make sure the room is sealed, drawing the curtains to block any outside light. Then draw a simplistic hourglass shape on the back of one of your hands. Make sure to remember well which hand it was, since you'll mostly be in the dark for this game. Take the candle and light it, then turn off the lights, and sit down on the floor with the 3 previously mentioned objects close together, and flip the hourglass so the sand begins to fall into an empty half. The only source of light should be your candle. Now, yell something along the lines of, "I'm not tired, and I refuse to go to sleep." Close your eyes to the count of 10, and open them again. You won't be entirely sure, but somewhere in the room you'll think you can see the shadowy outline of a man. You have now begun the game, and your opponent is none other than the master of sleep himself, the Sandman. Do not provoke him, and do not speak to him either. You've challenged him, and in a way, insulted him about his profession, so he's not in the best of moods, to say the least. Now comes the game. Your task is to stay awake for as long as possible, to a maximum of 8 hours, which will take you to 4 a.m. Every hour, you must flip the hourglass to reset it and keep the game going. Each time you flip the hourglass, you may take the marker and draw a tally mark on your arm. The specifics of which arm you mark will be explained later. And don't think you can just flip the hourglass 8 times really quickly or just draw 8 lines on your arm. The hour needs to pass in order for the magic to work. If you fail to flip the hourglass before the very last grain of sand falls, or should you succumb to sleep, you'll lose. During this time, the Sandman will be deploying as many tricks as possible to get you to fall asleep or give in. See, the bottom half of your hourglass at any time represents his power. The more sand, the stronger his influence will be. Almost immediately upon starting, you'll begin to feel drowsy. This is merely his presence. If you cannot last against this, stop playing immediately. During the first hour, he won't do a lot. He may walk around the room, but he won't touch you or speak to you. Even if you try to talk to the being, which is something you should really avoid doing, there will be no response. Also, don't move from your spot to approach him. The closer you get, the more drowsy you will become. And if you're not near your candle, he may put it out so you can go to sleep. Do not distract yourself during this time. You may easily lose track of time and forget to flip the hourglass on time. The Sandman can also skew your perception of how much time has passed, but he cannot affect the hourglass. So keeping your focus on that is your best chance of winning. Side note, if you try to leave the room, you will find that the doors are all locked and the windows reveal nothing but an unyielding darkness as far as you can see. After you pass the first hour, the Sandman may scoff, but will continue to stay in the room. Now, he will begin to pull more from his bag of tricks. He's seen that you're going to be a hard one to put down. The sounds of music boxes and harps may be heard, at first from a distance, but will slowly grow to a level that would be audible and comforting. Resist the urge to close your eyes and listen. Your body will grow weary as you approach hour 2 or 3, depending on how the Sandman is feeling that night. Around this point, he will begin speaking to you in many voices. The soft voice of a young girl, the wise cackling laugh of a grandparent, or perhaps even in the ever-loving, recognizable words of your own mother. They will try to congratulate you on surviving for so long with the Sandman, for braving sleepless days and nights to win this game. Whispers of lullabies and nursery rhymes will fill your head, but you know better. Say nothing and ignore the voices. No matter how real they may seem, don't listen to them. Do not go to sleep. If you manage to make it to the halfway point and now have 4 marks on your arm, you'll be nothing less than exhausted, and the Sandman will be nothing less than enraged. He will begin to manipulate your environment even more and start using new tactics to get you to sleep. Instead of trying to lull you to sleep, he will attack you. Hallucinations will occur. You'll see horrifying images of the dead hanging from the ceiling, flashed by a spotlight of unknown origin. The room may start to close in, and then stretch out, and close in again, and stretch back out. A whisper in your ear will turn into shouting in your face from an invisible source. Already weakened and sleep deprived, your remaining energy will be drained in bursts from his terrors. You may have sudden adrenaline rushes, sure, but the Sandman is clever. He'll time them so that you can't just survive to the next hour by simply being anxious. He'll wait until your emotional state has fallen just another level lower, and then two rotted feet dangling in front of your face. You can scream all you want. You can beg for him to stop, but this will only use up more of your ability to function. At the 6-hour mark, the hallucinations will shift between horror and comfort, while the Sandman will begin to pick your brain and find what nightmares cause you to come to a cold sweat many a night. Others will coax you towards slumber, claiming that you've put up with enough and that you deserve your rest. A warm bed to tuck yourself into, a pillow made from the softest of furs and feathers. The harps and music boxes will start to overload your sense of hearing. In your state, you may welcome the chance to sleep, but snap out of it. Have you been watching the hourglass, making sure his terrors aren't distracting you? This is why you don't talk to the Sandman. For every tiny detail about yourself you give him, he will use against you. This is also the part where electronic displays can become a massive problem. They will turn on regardless of whether they are powered or not, and should you gaze upon their mystifying image for too long, your eyelids will droop and your body will collapse onto the floor. If you had just turned screens away, the Sandman might use some muscle and turn it back towards you so you can get a better view. The curtains may open to a brilliant dawn or a clear blue sky, but the only truths in this room are your arm and the hourglass. Unless you have 8 marks, the game is not over. Use any ounce of strength you have to flip that hourglass. Now an immense chore from the Sandman's influence. Scrawl a line down with your arm on the marker, even if it looks like you are taking a knife and slashing your own arm open. During the final hour, the Sandman will begin to address you directly, asking you questions that appear to be simple. But as you are, you can't even remember what 2 + 2 equals. A question is the hardest thing to get out of your head, so don't let it get in. Cover your ears and just watch the hourglass. Keep those eyes open. Don't fall asleep. If the question gets in your head, you'll start to think about it, adding more stress and draining you of what little mental will you have left. It might become hard to breathe, as if something is squeezing your lungs, or the air is dense and hard to take. The Sandman will also get physical, grabbing you and throwing you across the room, leaving you to crawl back to the hourglass before time is up. If you catch a glimpse of his face, it may be enough of a nightmare to haunt you and keep your eyes from shutting. There will be no distinguishable facial features, save 2 bloody eyes, the lids torn from the sockets, endlessly staring. Anyone who has made it to the 7th hour mark has never had the strength to successfully break it, and either carried on or surrendered to their dreams. You will not receive a reward for ending the game this way, save the mercy of avoiding the Sandman's wrath. If you do make it to the end of the 8th hour without falling asleep, you will not need to flip the hourglass again. Simply make the 8th mark on your arm and close your eyes. However you ended the game, you cannot sleep just yet. There's one final task remaining. All you must do is wait for the Sandman to collect the hourglass and say, "You're all grown up now. Sleep when you wish. Open your eyes and find that the hourglass is gone and the candle put out. Now you may collapse in slumber, a 12-hour slumber to be precise. The game puts a heavy strain on your mind and body, so recovery is necessary. But it's the last sleep you'll ever need, or at least to that length, because once you've fully recovered, you will be able to stay awake for an extra hour for each tally on your marked arm. Depending on your normal sleep schedule, this may mean that you only need a small nap, maybe an hour or two at most, but for some, you'll never have to lie down again. Sure, you will have the ability to do so if you want to. You can still even dream, but there will never be any weariness following you. Just think of how productive you can be. But it's not all unicorns and rainbows. If you mark any tallies on your arm that were not marked by the hourglass, you will instead require more sleep, 1 hour for each tally on the blank arm to be precise. You will require more rest to be able to even function throughout your day. Now these marks can cancel with the ones on your marked arm, but if that's not the case, you may have just gone through all of that suffering, only to come out worse than before. And what with your delirious state throughout the game, it's unlikely for the average individual to come out with all the tallies on the marked arm. There are also circumstances of losing. If you fail to flip the hourglass, then the Sandman will gain full power, and with a snap of his fingers, you will collapse to the ground. Regardless of how you fall asleep, be it by failure of the hourglass or succumbing to your own tiredness, you will also sleep for 12 hours to recover, but it will be the worst sleep you'll ever have, and the Sandman will make damn sure that's the case. The worst nightmares will flood your mind, leaving you unable to escape or wake up in a relief-filled cold sweat. All you can do is endure the torture of a dream that feels like years. And when you finally come to consciousness the next morning, there you will be, lying on the floor of the room, the mark still on your arm, and blood flowing from where your eyelids once rested. You said you refused to close your eyes and go to sleep. The Sandman has simply granted that wish.
Everyone is always complaining about how every ritual entails a sacrifice upon success and a consequence upon failure. Well, hold up bitching a minute. I mean, come on. It's universal. First law of alchemy. Nothing can be gained without an equal or greater sacrifice. Threefold law in Wiccanism. Do evil, it'll come back threefold. Do good, and it will come back threefold, etc., etc. So now that we have a genuine understanding, assuming whoever is reading this isn't a total dumbass and is capable of reading and comprehending the text written in English language, let us discuss the ritual at hand. A lot of people know of rituals involving a chat or a game with Satan, but most of these involve the loss of your soul, with no chance of redemption regardless of how your meeting with the Prince of Darkness goes. These are the sort of rituals we hear throughout our childhood, from friends and reading novellas and internet stories that are simply known to be part of life. Everyone knows them, and many have tried them, much to their disappointment. There is a way around the inevitable desecration of your soul involving these type of rituals. However, there is not a way to avoid the potential for this sort of outcome. Just don't be a dumbass. This isn't the sort of thing you do when you're drunk to impress your friends. No need endangering multiple, infinitely lasting souls. it probably wouldn't work anyways. Satan doesn't often show up in the company of more than one person, unless he's feeling particularly rambunctious. He prefers to have private conversations. Better chance to fuck with your perception of reality that way. So with all this being said, and I'm assuming you're going to go through this regardless of the chances of death, losing your soul, and God only knows what else. I mean, it's the devil for God's sakes, and there's billions of horrid things that could happen. Let's get down to brass tacks. There isn't any long, lengthy list of things you need to perform this. Just a room with a wooden door as the main entrance and a bed, a cross or crucifix, made of silver or wood preferably. Silver was what Judas betrayed Jesus for, and wood was what Christ was crucified on. Definitely not made of gold or any other precious metal, save silver as previously mentioned. Salt, a pin or knife, 5 taper candles, and matches, not a lighter. Those are the only required items. Optional items include offerings such as cigarettes or booze, a deck of cards if you fancy a game with Satan, and or a chair in the room for Satan to take a seat. Satan never turns down a smoke or a drink. If you don't wish to have any of those items, that's fine. Satan will probably have his own anyways. And if it's a game you're looking to play, he'll have the provisions for anything you wish to play, within reason anyways, and offer to share if you do not have your own. As for the chair, it is courteous to offer your guest a comfortable seat, and he may choose to keep better company if you're not a total dick to him. At night, optionally around midnight on a cloudy night, make a small pentacle of the 5 candles in front of the wooden door, whilst it is open in the room of your choosing containing a bed. The light should be on in the room for the moment. This pentacle needs to be just big enough to contain the cross or crucifix, and the point of it should be toward the doorway. Be sure that it is far enough back so that when you close the door, you won't knock a candle over. It never ceases to amaze me how this has been explicitly explained. If you knock a burning candle over and burn your house down, Satan will most likely refuse to show up and would rather be sitting comfortably on his throne, laughing his ass off at your stupidity. If you decide to provide Satan a chair, set it behind the pentacle facing away from the door. After setting this little display up, circle the pentacle with salt and keep the rest of your salt on your person. Satan isn't a big fan of salt, and if things go down shit creek, it might be good to have some. Invite Satan in. There isn't a specific phrase to be said or anything of that sort. You could say anything from, "Satan, my good fellow, come on in," to, "Yo, Satan, my man, come chill with me." It is best to be hospitable with it, so if I were you, I'd say, "Satan, you are welcome into this room for a chat," or something to that effect. After this is said, wait a moment and place the cross or crucifix in an inverted position relative to you, long end facing the door, short end facing you, and light the candles from the point to left to right to bottom left to bottom right. It is important not to move the candles at all from this point or disturb the ring of salt. And it is important that if at all possible, to light them all up using one match. Once all the candles are lit, lick your fingers and press the match out with them. Turn the lights off. Place the spent match within the pentacle of candles. After this, take the pin or knife and prick the middle finger of your left hand. Put a drop of blood in the center of your inverted cross/crucifix. Note that by doing this, you are offering yourself to Satan for the remainder of the night. He can do whatever the hell he wishes to do with you while both of you reside in the room. He cannot have your soul without your say though, and chances are he will not try to harm you unless provoked. He'd rather make friends of you. Anyways, back to the ritual. Be sure to face the door and close your eyes and focus your mind on your desire to speak with the devil. For the ritual to be successful, you have to have a true will, a very strong resolve to speak with El Diablo. After a few moments, open your eyes and blow the candles out. Stand and close the door and turn the lights on. If all has gone well thus far, Satan's in the room with you. He accepted your invitation and entered. As long as the door is closed, he cannot leave without you opening the door for him. That is, as long as you're still alive to do so. Thus, if he states that he wishes to leave, it'd be best to oblige. As for where in the room, he'll be seated in a chair, if you choose to provide one, or reclining on your bed. Turn slowly around after closing the door, and as soon as you see him, do not, under any circumstances, take your eyes off of him. As soon as he sees you, he'll be privy to any info about your personal life. He'll pretty much know every damn thing about you, and then some stuff you probably didn't even know about yourself. He generally appears different to everyone, seeing as how he can look however he wishes. Most likely, he'll choose something appealing to you, an attractive member of the opposite sex perhaps, or the same sex if you're into that. Or if you aren't particularly inclined to indulge in the lust of the flesh, he'll appear as a clean-cut young man. You'll probably notice that regardless of his appearance, his eyes will be always nothing but burning embers in otherwise empty sockets. If not, he will probably offer you a drink or smoke, and he'll have one himself. Once he lights up or swallows a drink, he'll ask why you called him. You will want to give him a straight answer. Don't stutter and don't hesitate. Don't worry though, after this, the formalities will be over and you can relax a bit. Satan has a sense of humor and will likely be cracking jokes and doing various parlor tricks. Fire at the tip of his fingers, turning electrical appliances on, off from a distance, shape-shifting, imitations, etc. before you know it. Just keep him in your sight at all times and chat him up. Offering more smokes or drinks may make him stay longer if you have these at your disposal, but he will leave before daybreak regardless. The stakes for any game you play, or the answers to any burning questions that you may have, will most definitely be sinister. He might cut your thumbs off in return for telling you what really killed the dinosaurs, for instance, or maybe kill a family member for a losing hand at poker. P.S. Playing poker with Satan? Bad idea. He doesn't lose. Ever. And you will pay the price for a game. If you ask for the answer to a question such as this, he'll state a price, and you're welcome to turn it down, no strings attached. During the conversation between games or questions, he will tell you horrific things in a joking manner. Enter the "your dead aunt sucks cocks in hell" remarks. Don't mind, most of it will be lies. If you don't pay for it, he's free to tell you whatever he likes, be it fact or fiction. He will never mention your soul. Bring it up, and he won't turn it down though. Despite this, there is a price for everything. It won't be your soul so long as he doesn't offer, but there will be a price, rest assured. Don't piss him off, and you'll be fine. Aside from that, he generally doesn't like being disturbed for no reason though. So if you bring him out, don't just say you wanted some company or some stupid shit. If you ever become uncomfortable, tell him it is time to leave. He must leave if you do so. Eventually, at some time before daylight, he'll say he has business to attend to elsewhere regardless. Open the door for him and close it behind him. Don't exit your room until you've disassembled your pentacle, however. Enjoy! Hope it was worth losing your thumbs to find out how exactly the dinosaurs really died. The cat and mouse game is a game for children, where you ask for 2 volunteers to play the cat and the mouse. But
It used to be an old pagan ritual, used mainly to interact with evil spirits. While it was mainly used as a scare tactic to play with otherworldly demons and devils, there is still a very existent chance of death to those who play the cat and mouse game. There is an even higher chance of permanent mental scarring. It is highly recommended that you do not play the cat and mouse game. However, for those few thrill seekers searching for a rush, or for those delving into obscure occult rituals, these are simple instructions on how to play. Do so at your own risk. Instructions. Prerequisites. It must begin exactly at 1 a.m. when you begin performing the ritual. Otherwise, it will not work. Materials. You will need a candle, 2 pieces of paper, a writing implement, matches or a lighter, at least 1 drop of you and your partner's own blood, and at least enough volunteers to form a circle. They will need their own of the aforementioned materials, and they will have to perform the steps below accordingly. Step 1. Draw a cat on 1 piece of paper and a mouse on the other. It doesn't have to be perfect, you just need to get it done and over with. Step 2. Write you and your partner's full names, first, middle, and last, on the pieces of paper. Place your name on the piece of paper under the drawing of either a cat or mouse, and your partner will do the same with the other. Put at least 1 drop of blood on the papers. Allow it to soak into the papers. Step 3. Turn off all of the lights in the place you are doing this. Now, take out the candle and light it. Place it next to the blue blood-soaked papers, where it can be in the middle. Step 4. Have your friends form the circle. The hour must be 1 a.m. upon doing so. Then, blow out the candles, and if you are the mouse, you must enter the circle. But if you are the cat, you must stay out of the circle at all times. Your friends have to hold hands, and they begin repeating these words over 30 times, above a whisper. Cat, chase, mouse. Cat, chase, mouse. Cat, chase, mouse. Cat, chase, mouse. Your friends have just allowed the Catman to enter your friend and hunt you down. Step 5. Survive without being caught. This is where the game begins. You must now run around outside or inside your house. Your goal is to avoid the Catman at all costs until 5 a.m. Should you feel like you are being watched, that means the Catman is near you. You must hide till he is gone. If you are not successful in doing this, you must immediately run back in the circle. If you are unsuccessful, the Catman will catch you, rip you apart, and eat your flesh and organs one by one. You will feel it, but you will be unable to react. If you are successful in running back in the circle of your closest friends, you must remain there until 5 a.m. If you are successful in hiding, you may proceed with the game. You must continue the game till 5 a.m. without being attacked by the Catman or being trapped inside the circle to win the cat and mouse game. The cat will leave your friend's body at 5 a.m. and you will be safe to proceed with your morning. Addition. Indications that you are near the Catman will include hearing very soft whispering coming from an indiscernible source and seeing your partner through the darkness. If you experience any of these, it is advised that you leave the area to avoid the Catman. Do not turn on any of the lights during the cat and mouse game. Do not use a flashlight during the cat and mouse game. Do not go to sleep during the cat and mouse game. Do not attempt to use another person's blood on you and your partner's name. And definitely do not attempt to provoke the Catman in any way. Good luck. You're gonna need it. If you go into this one tiny, dingy one-story bar in Paris, and the right bartender is behind the counter that night, you might be able to see a very exclusive art show of the lost works of one Henri Beauchamp. But to get in, you have to prove you're a devotee of the artist. You will be asked in clear and perfect English, "What would you like to partake of this glorious night?" Answer, "Absinthe." No matter what, any other drink, from whiskey to water, will kill you as you sleep. The next question will regard the type, and you must answer one of two things. The stuff that man himself could not bear to take, or the good stuff, the best stuff. If you ask for any other absinthe in any other way, you will be plagued by nightmares for 13 days. Each nightmare's dream will be more horrible than the last, until, upon the 13th dream, your nightmare will follow you every moment of your waking and sleeping life. Don't try and cheat the barkeep, the door locked behind you. You have to drink what he gives you, doom or not. That such a power man granted your audience should be enough. Besides, I've heard that the dying complimented his drinks in their death throes. If you make it that far before sealing your fate, the bartender will say, "Be sure you handle this with care. This is the finest I have." From here, you may do one of two things. Say, word for word, "I overestimated my fortitude, and I bid you good eve." If the bartender nods, you may leave the door you entered, unharmed and with nothing gained and nothing lost. Or you can go on. You will be given a glass with a 7-sided rim, with each side twisting ever so delicately around the basin until forming a sleek and simple handle. You will also receive a very, very, very special absinthe spoon in the shape of a key. The holes at the key's top serve as the draining point for the alcohol to pour over the sugar cube, and of course, an unmarked bottle, stripped long ago of its label, scraps of paper sticking to its sides, covered in the rot of the decades past. The spoon is completely flat, but has two distinct sides, one with a groove along the shaft of the key, and one without. Turn the shaft down, so its groove will be face down. If you attempt this face up, your absinthe will taste foul, your nose will burn, and your eyes will shrivel in their sockets with unspeakable horrors not of this world. Now, if your spoon is the right way up, begin preparing the absinthe as one would. Put the sugar on the spoon and pour the alcohol over so it gains its color and special qualities. Say cheers to your friend, the barkeep, and bottoms up. If you don't, the absinthe will burn every innard it touches with the power and pain of sulfuric acid. If you've done it right, the already dim lights will go off, and darkness will consume the bar. Don't be afraid, for the darkness is the cue that you've been approved for the exhibit. Wait out the darkness, and keep as silent as the dead, lest the bartender decide to make you so. Eventually, not too long, 2 to 3 minutes, a green floodlight will shine brightly on a door on the far wall of the bar. The bar will be bathed in green, and not just from the floodlight. Little luminescent spheres will gently drift through the room, and the barkeep will no longer be there, nor any other unassuming patron inside before. There's no danger by this point. Consider it a safe point. If you didn't finish the absinthe, you don't have to, but you might need the alcohol. Either way, take the spoon and put it in the keyhole of the green-lit portal's doorknob. It'll fit perfectly, and reach the end of the keyhole with a resounding click. Inside is a small elevator with the most beautiful women any mortal eyes can imagine, bathed in the green glow in just such an angle that the light refracts behind her into the shape of wings. The green fairy herself will ask you, "Going up?" And considering all the trouble you went through, it would only make sense to say yes. Now you have one more hurdle to clear. She will ask you, as you cross the line from the bar to the compartment, "How would you compare Beauchamp's surrealism to that of, say, Rene Magritte?" For your reply, you must say, "I've come to see more than art tonight." If you don't, the green floodlight will blow out, the doors will slam shut, and the elevator will plummet through a seemingly infinite blackness before a red light grows brighter as the elevator nears the very depths of hell. Now, if your elevator begins to go up, the green light will also fade, but in its place will be the cool glow of the moon. But before you even recognize it, the elevator will reach the top of its, well, let's call it a shaft, not to get too intricate. Now, I'm not as sure about this as the rest, but I've heard that if the green fairy kisses you on the cheek as she leaves the elevator, you will be blessed with a creative inspiration, a permanent, ever-changing muse. You can't ask her, you can't kiss her. She has to do it of her own volition. If not, well, nothing. But no reason to do it anyway and anger the woman who is responsible for keeping the Beauchamp's paintings safe for so many years. You will enter from the elevator, a turn-of-the-century parlor, with a large poster of Henri Beauchamp on the left side of the opposite wall. On the right side is a door. Taking the time to read the poster is a fairly good idea, as it explains the very significance of Monsieur Beauchamp. You see, he was a struggling surrealist in the 1920s, always making art to try and be free of all premeditation, and managed to do so. After one night in a tiny, dingy one-store bar in Paris, he began to paint patterns. First it was geometric patterns, then complete fractals, then images that would be in the newspaper the next day, then next week, then from 50 years ago, 100 years into the future, 200 years in the past. Then, on the last night of his life, he kidnapped 3 young girls from their homes at night, murdered them, and painted his finest masterpiece in reds and yellows with the blood and bile of virgins. He committed suicide immediately after painting exactly 13 of these. These are behind the door. The first 6, from the left, show from left to right the genesis of the universe, the only true visage of God as viewable to the eyes of man, the true image of Jesus Christ, the sprawling clouds of heaven, every pope from the first to faces not yet recognizable, and a portrait of Jesus' appearance in his second coming. The other six, on the right, show from right to left the cataclysm of the universe, the only true visage of Satan as viewable to the eyes of man, the true image of Judas, the sprawling flames of hell, every human embodied demon, from the first to faces not yet recognizable, and a portrait of the Antichrist in his second coming. Now 6 and 6 makes 12. But what of the 13th? This 13th painting is turned around on its wall pin, the image facing the wall. The space around it is roped up at a very wide diameter, and under the flipped image is a sign in 3 languages. The top is in the scriptures of seraphim, the bottom in the runes of the highest demonic orders, and in the middle, in Roman letters, "Do not touch." Now, like the kiss, I can't say this part with as much certainty, but all the same, I heard that somehow, as he died, Beauchamp flayed his skin, his organs, his very soul, into some sort of collage. How he took his dead body and created such a horrific masterpiece, I could never say, nor would I ever dare to. So, if you make it, maybe you can flip the canvas over and tell me sometime over a drink. I'm sure we have all heard the tales of how to aggravate some kind of ghost in a mirror. I've tried every one I could find, but nothing ever happens. However, this is because in reality, there isn't really a ghost in the mirror. It's you. Not a different version of you. In reality, we exist in as many places as there are mirrors at once. But there is a real way to do something interesting with a mirror. The other side of the mirror contains a world where all your wildest desires are yours. You just have to do one thing. Tell your mirror these words: "You are everything I have ever been, and I am willing to accommodate all credit I have ever had into one entity." And then shatter the mirror quickly. If not done quickly enough, a demonic moan will be heard as giant hands grab you from the mirror fragments. If done correctly though, the mirror will piece itself back together, and your reflection will climb out of the mirror and allow you to enter his world. There's one condition, of course. The only way you can ever leave is if another mirror you have decides to try this process. If not, you are stuck for eternity. Oh, and by the way, you wouldn't want to know what happens if the mirror for the world you are in gets broken. Let's just say that brings bad luck. Altogether, a small price to pay for all your wildest desires. Maybe it's late at night, but you can't sleep. You're bored, or you can't stop a bazillion thoughts from racing through your skull. Or maybe you've had too much coffee, or you're a little drunk. Whatever the case, I've been there, my friend. I know how it feels to sit there and realize that you're not really living right now. You're just existing. Surely there's something you can do, right? But no matter what, no options presented
seem like something that feels right. It's definitely not clubbing night. Watching TV or playing video games seem like mind-numbing options. And you've been likely surfing the net all night and have realized how little satisfaction you're getting from that too. Well, good news, because I have a solution. This option might require you to put on pants and walk somewhere, but it's worth it. I guarantee it. See, there's a building not even a block from where you live, and at any time of the night, you'll find the rear entrance unlocked. During the day, the place is locked up tight as a drum, but for some reason, once night falls, whatever time of day that happens to fall on at any time of the year, you'll find the rear entrance open and waiting. What are you waiting for? Christmas? Get your pants on, put on your shoes, and get your ass down there. Didn't I promise it would be worth it? Only one thing. You've got to follow my instructions to the letter. To the letter. That's very important. Got it? Good. Are you ready? Let's go. The building is just up ahead. See it? It's an old office complex. It's currently unoccupied. Not sure what business was once here, but for now, it's empty. It's been here for years, and I don't recall a time when there was an actual business open there. Yes, of course I'm sure the rear entrance is unlocked. Didn't I say that? Let's head around the back. Don't worry, I know the lights are off. It's not like this building advertises itself to the general public. Only a very select few have ever attempted what you're about to attempt. Stop worrying, okay? You'll be fine, as long as you follow my instructions. There's the entrance. Go ahead, try the door. See? It opens, just like I said it would. Now, proceed to the first elevator you see. What do you mean? It's too dark to see? Just use your flashlight. You didn't bring a flashlight? Didn't I tell you to? Oh no, my bad. Well, you've started now. You can't turn back. You don't want to know what happens if you ignore me and turn back now. You'll just have to use what light there is from the moon to proceed. Okay, the elevator is 10 paces forward and to the right. The building is 10 floors tall. You will be going to the 11th floor. Well, shut up. I'm explaining. What you need to do is get in the elevator and immediately press and hold the button for the 10th floor. When it starts to flash, let go of it right away and tap the button for the first floor. Phew, you did a good job there. Now the elevator is proceeding to the 11th floor. If you press those buttons any differently, you might have wound up on a different floor. Believe me, you don't want that. The elevator door opens on a hallway that leads straight forward to a brightly illuminated exit sign. This is not our path. You run for that exit, you'll probably never make it do. If you do, you'll find out that the sign lies. Instead, you need to turn left and take the first door you see. Wait, is that really the first door you saw? You were about to head into it without realizing that it was not the first door you saw. It was the second. The first door you saw was the one your eyes cast upon as you were turning. It's the second doorway on the left, true, but it wasn't the first door you saw after I gave the instruction. See what I mean? You have to follow my instructions to the letter. That was the last time I'm going to warn that you are choosing wrong. Pay careful attention from now on, or God knows what will happen. Head through the door and sit down immediately. Good job. You apparently understand now. Do as I say, and only as I say, if you hope to get through this with your sanity and or life intact. Ignore the cold sweat on your scalp and congratulate yourself that you didn't close the door, but instead sat down as soon as I told you. The room before you is black, blacker than anything you've ever seen. You cannot see your hand in front of your face. You need to sit there, perfectly still, not moving a muscle, until I say move. Count your heartbeats. When you get to 20, stand up. 1, 2. Remember to count heartbeats, not seconds. There, you got to 20 and you're standing. Now, announce to the room.
That which is darkest is closest. That which is closest is watching. That which is watching is furthest.
Did you say it? You didn't hesitate after standing, did you? Did you speak as I told you the words, or did you wait until you heard them all? If you waited, you're done for. Okay, looks like they're satisfied. Good news for you. You may proceed. Take 1 step forward and then immediately turn right. Walk forward until you come to a door. Open it, close it immediately, and stand with your back to the room. This room will be as dark as the first. Stop breathing, hold your breath, and no matter how much it hurts, do not let it out. What's in this room follows the sound of breath, and if it hears any, well, I won't tell you what it will do, or you will release that breath and bolt for it. Keep holding your breath and count another 20 heartbeats. Now the breath must really be straining your lungs. I understand that. Stay facing the door, but walk backwards until your back presses against the far wall. Keep that breath held. Walk slowly. Oh, I bet you just can't stand it anymore, can you? You must simply release that breath. I can't stop you. All I can do is remind you that you are not alone in this room. And breathing would be so much worse than simply keeping your breath held. There's the far wall. Without looking, feel for a door handle. Open it, step through and close it. Now release that breath. Feels good now, doesn't it? You're about a quarter of the way through, and you're still alive and still yourself. You're doing quite well so far. The room you are now standing in is not dark, as the others have been. It's lit by a small fire on the far end. A huddled figure is sitting by that fire. Don't turn around. At least don't do so until you stand straight and announce in a clear voice,
Might I share your fire for a moment?
Now wait. Count your heartbeats again. If you get to 10 and have heard nothing, hold your breath again and run back through the door you came in without looking back. There. Was that a soft grunt? Did it come from the figure? Be careful. Think hard about it. If you decide that it was indeed a soft grunt of assent, turn and go to the fire and huddle before it like the figure is. While walking, you'll likely notice that there are 5 doors in this room, including the one you came through. Huddle on the opposite side of the fire as the figure. Make sure you huddle yourself in the same position. Never look directly at it. You won't like what you see. Now you may ask it any question you want to, but here's the catch. If it's the wrong question, you'll be stuck huddled in this position while it can get up and leave. Most people ask it which door to take. Good, you're asking him which door to take, and if you listen, he will tell you, don't get up yet. Consider the fact that this figure is not your friend. It doesn't know you, and it probably doesn't like you very much. Could it have lied? Maybe you should take exactly the opposite door suggested. Or maybe this creature cannot lie, and you should listen to it. No, don't ask me, I truly don't know. One of these doors is the right one, but it's never the same door. You get to choose whether you believe the figure or not. Seems like you've chosen to listen to it. Let's see what happens. Wow, today's your lucky day. You're doing very well so far. You find yourself in another long hallway. This one is longer and much, much darker. There are 2 doors at the end. If you walk straight to those doors, you will be forced to choose one, and neither is marked. You can feel that presence, can't you? The one that's right behind you. You can feel its breath on your neck. You can sense how close it is. The hairs on your neck prick up. It's going to follow you. If you look around, you'll regret it. Don't speak to it. Don't acknowledge it in any way. Just walk. Walk until you hear whispering. If I were you, I would pay attention to that whispering. Not so much as what's being said, as to which door it's coming from. You're hearing it now, aren't you? Yes, just right up there to the right. You stopped as soon as you heard it. You're still listening. You're doing so well. Yes, it's still there. And yes, you still need to ignore it. Turn to the door you hear it coming from and walk straight towards it. Place your hand on the knob. Now here's where things get complicated. On the other side of the door is whatever you're picturing in your head when you turn the knob. So it's important, vital, that you do not think of the thing you fear most. You know that thing that sometimes keeps you awake at night because you're certain that if you close your eyes, it will come for you. That creeping feeling you get when you think someone's watching you. That idea or thought that your deepest nightmares try to hide from you. I'm warning you. If you're thinking about it, stop. Do not turn the doorknob until you've cleared it from your mind. Are you still thinking about it? You are, aren't you? The presence behind you is getting closer. You have 3 ways out of this. You can run for the 2 doors at the end and accept whatever fate lies beyond them. You can let the presence behind you catch you and do whatever it's going to do. Or you can stop thinking about your fear right now and open the door. Whatever your choice, you're not bored anymore. I told you it was worth it. It was a cold night, colder than usual for the city, at least. The moon shone above us, lighting our path. We didn't need to see to know our destination. The place may as well have been programmed into our minds. The only place open on the far end of town, overlooking a placid ocean that stretched for God knows how long, drew us like moths to a flame. The building, decrepit and decayed as it was, let loose a soft light from its one window. A single word, its paint chipped away, stretched over the plate glass. At one point, it read Jerry's, but now it was more like Icene's. The condition of the place belied its popularity. Unless you knew of it, you'd overlook it or write it off as a drug den. Drugs were just one of the many things it offered, but only to a close crowd of hand-picked customers. Everyone else knew it as a coffee house that stayed open despite its lack of business. Many suspected that it was a front for something more sinister, or that it was simply being funded from the owner's pocket alone. If they only knew, they'd wish that explanation was that simple. Still, the thoughts of the general populace aren't why you're reading this, are you? You're reading this because you're insane. Sorry, that just kind of slipped out. What I meant was, you're reading this because you're seeking, like many others, deification. I have to warn you, you're treading a well-worn, but nonetheless dangerous path. If you want to continue, fine. Just don't blame me. You're going to need a full bottle of alcohol, preferably whiskey, though the brand doesn't matter. A knife, a mix of Destroying Angel, Hellebore, and Belladonna. All of these things must be obtained at the same place. This is the place you will be performing the ritual, so be sure that it's lonely, or you risk being caught. I know what you're thinking. How the hell am I going to get a bottle of whiskey, a knife, and some rare herbs all in the same place? All I can say is, there's ways. Manipulate a friend into buying these things and giving them to you at the ordained spot. Find a rare herb, knife, alcohol store. I don't know. I don't care. I just know how it must be done. When you've done this, wait for a night when the stars sparkle like the shards of a shattered mirror. If it's the right time, you should smell incense faintly on the wind. As soon as you arrive, the skies will darken to a royal purple, and the grasses, even if not present before, will blacken. The slightest touch will make them crumble, so it's easy to know where you've been before. Look to the horizon, and you'll see white pillars jutting into the sky. Walk towards them. You want to take the most direct path possible. Trust me on this. It's my only gift to you. Approaching them, you'll find a woman chained to the bottom of a deep well, deeper than you could possibly hold your breath. She doesn't struggle, doesn't scream. She simply stares up at you with persistent want. Don't meet her gaze, or you'll find yourself walking towards that well, whether you want to or not. You'll jump in and eventually drown trying to save her. Keep walking towards the pillars to find a series of raised platforms, forming a staircase to the highest one. As you walk up them, you'll hear and see the most terrible things. People being slowly flayed to the bone, infants being raped, people screaming for help, for mercy. Ignore them. They are but memories now. You cannot save them. As you step onto the final platform, it will collapse out beneath you. Still got the whiskey from before? You're gonna need it if luck's not in your favor. As you plummet to your death, you'll hear one of two things. A powerful voice stating that it is not yet your time to die, or that same voice reciting a long list of everything you've done that would condemn you. If you hear the former, congrats, you're in the clear. Skip the following message and carry on. If you hear the latter, well then, you better hope Death's thirsty. If he is, you can trade that whiskey for one more year. It'll be easily the most uneventful year you'll ever have, because your unplanned for extension cannot be allowed to have effects on the lives of others, lest it attract the notice of the archgods, who are very destroy it all and start again happy. Still, this kind of thing happens when you make people serve 1,000-year-long shifts. Just saying, if any of them are reading this. If all goes proper, you'll find yourself in a vast expanse of void. Stay perfectly still and watch the ground for flashing squares. These are markers for the more forgetful deities, so that they can avoid a death by matter compression. That's right, you're in the heart of a black hole. Technically, you're smaller than even the lowliest bit of subatomic material, but that's got no bearing on things. Remember the coffee house from before? That's your end goal. As you walk forward through the wormhole, keep it in your mind. Feel the cool sea breeze on your face. Smell the crisp, salty air. Hear the plucking of a nostalgic melody drift idly through the night. Go towards the light and open the door. If you did it correctly, you'll see a very empty coffee house. Tables are scattered throughout the room, all in states of disarray and disuse. Some chips are tipped over, the food on the table waiting patiently for an owner that will never return. Choose one of them and sit down. Eventually, the piano man will notice and come over. He will ask you why you're here so late at night. The smell of stale coffee and cigarette smoke will lace his every breath. But make no notice nor mention of this, else you'll be fine the next morning, reeking of bourbon and coffee. Your vocal cords will be messily removed from your throat, usually severing the jugular, and be discovered in your rectum. If you give him a decent answer, he'll suddenly lean close to you and inhale deeply. Don't ask him what he's doing. Just hold up your packet of herbs. He'll snatch it away, a greedy gleam in his eyes, and point his grubby thumb towards the back. Walk there, and you'll find the door to the cellar, conveniently hidden behind the register counter. As soon as you go down, the door will slam shut behind you. You'll hear the sound of a lock clicking into place. The person before you is a god or goddess that has fallen from grace. If you wish to become a deity, you must find a way to kill them and steal their soul. Do this with much quickness. Chained or not, you're facing a deity. If you aren't destroyed in the first couple of seconds, you'll eventually starve to death. But you'd give anything to be powerful, wouldn't you? Before attempting this, please read through to the end. Make sure you understand the risks and are willing to pay for the price of admission. Above all else, you must concentrate, must focus. You must not allow yourself the self-indulgence of thinking about what you're doing. Such reflection will wake the logic we've cultivated as a species to banish the darker realities. And after all, we're not interested in logic. It's magic we're after here, aren't we? Magic is belief, not ritual. Ritual is nothing without belief, an empty vessel. And for that reason, any ritual, no matter how simple, will suffice. It's the belief that matters, the front from which the magic shall flow into this tiny container we'll soon build. Concentrating? Mind clear? Good. Let's begin. For the purposes of our simple ritual, all you must do is find a space where you can sit comfortably for a while, any time after sunset. For safety's sake, you should have no walls or portals of any kind nearer than twice your arm's reach from you. Some arms are longer than others. Clear your field of vision of any mirrors and other highly reflective surfaces. Lastly, turn off all the lights. If this is inconvenient for any reason, just make sure you're somewhere with a door that closes you off from the light. They aren't a big fan of the light. We're calling back an old friend of yours, one you never understood. It used to visit you in the dark of your room, to whisper to you from the shadows of basements and the tops of darkened stairways. Invest your belief in this ritual, and it will summon up your visitor. Now recite the following poem. My oldest friend, so long ignored, come back to me from the night's dark shore. My invitation I renew, that I might spend this night with you. Repeat this poem until you establish a consistent rhythm. Tap out its beats as you recite it. Once you've gotten it down, you should only have to repeat it a few more times before you sense a change in the room. It could be almost anything. Breathing beside your own, a drop in temperature, creaking floorboards, a surresis of movement, etc. Most commonly, you'll just know you're no longer alone. Once this happens, remain quiet, remain still. No matter what you hear, no matter what it might say, do not turn to look at it. Visitors are bound by laws far older than the laws of nature and much more profound. These same laws protected you as a child, but sadly, some no longer apply. Visitors are bound to us from our birth until our death, so it has been denied your nourishing fear for a good many years, kept at bay by the faux light of rational thought. a flimsy shield you've dared to cast aside. It's weak right now, but it doesn't mean it's not dangerous. It's hungry. What follows could last minutes, hours. Console yourself with the knowledge that the longest it can possibly continue is until dawn. It will offer you anything you want if you'll only look. It will beg, it will howl and scream and roar. It will creep up so close that you can feel its icy corpse breath on your neck. Keep repeating, ask, and I shall answer. Eventually, it will pose its riddle. Except it's not truly the visitor's riddle. It's yours. If you lived your life with your eyes mostly open, if you've been paying attention to the subtle play of synchronicity in your life, the answer will come to you almost immediately. If it doesn't, you have until dawn to answer. It shall never be asked again. Like all good riddles, the correct answer will be self-evident. If you answer correctly, the visitor will then set a task for you. Once it does, wait until you no longer sense its presence before moving from your seat. The task will always be something totally outside your character, but there's no time limit and you get as many chances as you need. Once you do, congratulations, you've passed the first test. The task will always be something totally outside your character, but there's no time limit and you get as many chances as you need to complete it. Once you do, congratulations, you've passed your first test. If you look at your visitor, there's nothing more to be done for you. It's already walking around in your skin, drinking the sweet, sweet nectar of your silent screams. In time, your screams will fail to satisfy, and someday we'll read about your atrocities. If you fail to solve the riddle, you'll learn to sleep with the lights on soon enough. In fact, you'll find that after a brief adjustment period, you can get by with almost no sleep at all. You'll have to.
There's a way that you can bring back a loved one after death. I wouldn't recommend it though. Death is final, and cheating it always leads to bad results. But you'll want to know anyways. Well, here you go. Go to the cemetery that your loved one is buried in. This only works for those that have been buried though. There's probably another method for cremation or something, but I don't know it. Make sure you take with you the one object that is most important to you. The emotion from this object, this sacrifice, will provide your power. Take it to the plot of your loved one and bury it over their grave. You don't have to go very far, so don't worry about running into the slab or anything. Before you cover up the hole with your object, don't forget to add a few drops of your blood to it. This imbues the ritual with your own life essence, and it draws them in. Then come the final steps. Take a small handful of dirt from where you buried your object and swallow it. Disgusting, but necessary. That creates the link between you and where you need to go. After that, get yourself as comfy as you can and fall asleep upon the grave. If everything was done correctly and you were lucky, you'll wake to find yourself standing at the gate of the graveyard. It will be dim, foggy, and you'll notice a lack of color in this drab place. You'll also see that there seems to be people wandering around the gravestones. Exactly how many and what they'll look like will depend on the cemetery you went to. But I've never heard of a location not having at least a few dozen wandering around. Whatever you do, stay away from them. Those are the shades of those left behind from failed rituals, or weak spirits drawn from the surrounding areas to the power of your blood and object. Even if you recognize some of them, do not go near them. They are little more than instinct now and desire one thing above all else: life. They want another chance to live and crave nothing more. Even if the shade's mind is so far gone, it doesn't even recall why. And if one catches you, it will try to steal that life away from you. They may notice you, they may not. If they do, evade them. It shouldn't be too hard, as their reflexes and control are not nearly as sharp as they used to be. Avoid them and look for your loved one. The person may be at their grave or wandering the walkway. You may even find them hiding, terrified of the scene before them. When you finally see your loved one, stop. Don't go near them yet. Call out the person's name and wait. If the response seems genuine, everything is going as planned. If the response is delayed, quiet, distant, or not even present, then hold on. Ask from a distance, what was the one thing the person hated in life? As these shades progress and their minds dwindle to nothing, one of the first things to go are the memories of the things they hated in life. Any bad memory that makes life seem terrible would slip away, to be replaced by that deep desire to return to the living. If your loved one's answer seems legitimate, take their hand and pray you weren't wrong. If you are, you may find yourself as a replacement shade, wandering this foggy graveyard. Be aware that their hand will be cold, freezing. It will be like grasping solid ice, but never let go. Even if your hand starts going numb and your fingers turn black, do not let go. After feeling that rush of life touching their hand and immediately losing it moments later, your loved one may not be able to resist the urge to take it all from you. Take your loved one back to the gate, avoiding other shades if you can. More of them may notice you now, as your living body is connected to their realm via your lost loved one. Be quick, be decisive, and do not let go of your loved one's hand. Should you make it and step through the gate of the cemetery, you'll find yourself back in the living world. However, this time your loved one will have rejoined you at your side, still clutching your hand. To the rest of the world, it will just seem like your loved one went on a long trip somewhere and recently came back. Nobody will be able to recall where it was they went or what they did there. Nobody except you and your loved one, but they'll be happy to see the person's return. After this, I suggest that you never stay in one place for too long. Keep moving, keep roaming. The more random, the better. The moment you start to see the sickly, pale look come across your loved one's face, or the bit of decay that might start forming on your skin, move. Death hates to be cheated, and if he catches up with you and your loved one, he'll make damn sure that you both feel every bit of the rotting sickness that will build up in your bodies until your loved one once again falls to the grasp of death and returns to the cemetery. This time, however, she won't be alone. You will be joining. Maybe you'll get lucky though. Maybe someone might make this journey for you. They'll take your hand and drag you back to the world of the living, only for it all to start once again. If you're ever in England, there is a place quite unlike any other place in the world. Deep in the English countryside, located in the southwest, there is a small village that time has forgotten. No human being has lived there in over 200 years. It won't be on any map, any road sign, and even if you search for it and find it on Google Maps, it's said that the rest of the area is blurred out, like a big patch, just blurry, while the rest is fine. Time, and indeed everyone, has forgotten about this place. If you do wish to visit, you'll need to travel there by foot, as the nearest road is 30 miles away. The walk will be long, and towards the end, you'll have to pass through a huge forest. This forest is dark, and most who enter will never be seen again. If you do make it through the forest alive, I will be waiting. When you come out of the forest, you will be outside the village. It will literally be like stepping 200 years into the past. There is no time for pictures, however, as at this point, you will realize that any modern device will be gone. You will get them back later. Make your way through the village, but don't stop. You are being watched. One wrong move will lead to your death. If you bring any sort of weapon, you will be killed. Make your way to the wishing well in the center. Once there, you will throw into it a 1 pence coin, a 2 pence coin, a 10 pence, 20 pence, and 50 pence coin. You will then put into it a sample of your blood. By doing this, you are saying you want blood money. When you return, you will gain a vast fortune, but there is still one more thing up for grabs. Do not leave the wishing well and stand there for 5 more minutes. You've come this far, have you not? A large figure will suddenly emerge from the water in the wishing well. He will rise up to your height, and he will then offer out his hand to you. His face will be decomposing. His eyes will be empty, with worms going in and out. He is the last guy who came to the village, but he didn't listen like he should have. He will offer you his hand. Fear will kick in, and you'll want to run, but do not run. His hand will have maggots and spiders crawling down. His flesh will be nothing but bone. The stench will make you want to pass out, but you must take his hand. You will feel a surge of power rush through your body, followed by a huge flash of light. A thunderstorm will erupt out of nowhere. You will pass out. When you awaken, this could be 5 minutes later, it could be 5 years. You will be lying in your sleeping space in your home. You will be unharmed in any way. Any virus, disease, illness, or pestilence that you've had now will be gone. You will be attractive, and above all else, you will now be immortal. As you get up from your bed, I will be there. I will hand you the deed to the village, and if you ever return, you will notice that the village is now occupied again by townsfolk, except they're living in a time zone 200 years ago. When you enter, all time in the outside world will freeze until you leave the village again.